Hey guys, Retro Dude here. Thanks for joining our channel again, where we review all things retro. We focus mainly on video games. However, once in a while, I'll take a left turn in Albuquerque and wind up reviewing or even just taking a look back at old cartoons, anime, music, movies. So before we get started, I want to remind you guys, if you like what we're doing, click the subscribe button, give us a thumbs up. And if you guys have any suggestions, put them in the comments below. I do read those and I will take those into consideration when checking out my next list of games. Alright, so today I'm not taking a look back at any one game. I just want to introduce myself to you guys a little bit and to let you guys know where I'm coming from. So today I wanted to do a list of 10 games that influenced me greatly. Now, it doesn't mean the most influential games. Like, I don't want to make it a top 10 list or anything like that. I just want to let you guys know, well, this is what I'm all about. These are the games that I remember so fondly that really affected me on a personal level. Now, it is a personal list. However, just like many gamers out there, they were influenced by these games, and some of them are the ones that define generations. So, without further ado, let's get on with that list. The first on the list is Super Mario Brothers. Super Mario Bros. Was released in 1985. It was a game created by Shigeru Miyamoto, known as one of the best selling games of all time, with over 50 million copies sold. The composer was Koji Kondo. He also did Legend of Zelda. He did most of the Super Mario games as well, so he's done pretty well for himself. He has a really good track of making some great soundtracks. Uh, the game itself is just a simple side scroller platformer. This game was packaged along with the NES system. So pretty much everybody got to play it that owned the NES system. Why it's so influential? Well, one is it revived the gaming market. Before then, Atari was niche at best, and it did have things for me as well. I mean, I started playing Atari games, but Nintendo and Super Mario Brothers just knocked it out of the park. I mean, it had a great soundtrack, had awesome gameplay, very responsive. Um, the Nintendo system and its own right was a brick. I mean, you had that little controller with two buttons, and this thing you could toss it anywhere, and nothing was gonna happen to that control. That's a beast of a control that they made on it. Probably the best of any controller in terms of quality by Nintendo. They've had some crappy quality controllers over the years, um, but that's Super Mario Brothers. Here's the kicker for that one. I mean, it innovated on so many levels and it continued to do it. We'll probably just ignore Super Mario Brothers 2 for this, but then you have Super Mario Brothers 3. It was awesome. I mean, to my preference, that's the best Super Mario Brothers game that I've ever played. And then they took it one step further with Super Mario World, when you would be able to get on Yoshi. So that was a really fun game as well. Then they redid it again with Super Mario 64, which was a great 3D. It introduced everybody to 3D graphics on the 64. So it was a great game as well. It's not a surprise that this is one of the better known names in the world, just overall. I mean, you get Mickey, you get Super Mario Brothers standing right next to him. This is a well-known figure, and just the fact that they've launched so many games with the Super Mario Brother name that have been exceptionally good is definitely a testament to that. Next on the list is Fallout 3. It is a post-apocalyptic action role-playing game. It was created by Bethesda. It was the first in the series to actually go first person. It takes place in 2277 area. You're close to DC area, I suppose. It was reviewed really highly with like 90% out of 100 by most magazine standards. So you could definitely say that I wasn't the only one who loved this game. Now, Bethesda has this formula down, but that was what introduced me to that formula. Skyrim is probably a little bit more popular than Fallout in as we speak. However, just the fact of me playing that game at that certain time, and I remember just coming out of the vault and your eyes strained because you've always been like inside, and like your eyes adjusting to the light, and then you see this massive world that you have to go to. That was absolutely amazing to me in my eyes, and to this day I still like maybe once a year I replay Fallout 3 just because of the memories that I have of it, how great the game is, and how much of a different gameplay you have every single time you play it. Not even mentioning the fact that you could play as a good guy or a bad guy. It's just how random it is. It's a great game. Next on the list is Street Fighter 2 World Warrior. Street Fighter 2 was released in 1991 by Capcom. It's estimated to have made over 10 billion, that's right, billion with a B, for Capcom over the course of its many iterations. Around 25 million people have played it by 1994. It's been the best fighting game until 2019, when it was dethroned by Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. So there's been a lot of Street Fighter 2s over the years, but this is the original one, the Street Fighter 2 World Warrior. Now, this game was massive when it was released in the arcades. If you guys don't know what arcades are, they were basically these machines that you used to be able to play one game on, and that's it. You would go to what we called an arcade it was a store that basically had all of these different games on every one of these machines, and that's what used to be called as an arcade. You would put in 25 cents, 50 cents, and you would play the game. And I mean, some of these games were just quarter eaters. That was the business back then. I mean, it was hard enough and it was easy enough that you could feel like, oh, I could get further if I just put a little bit more time on it and spend an extra quarter on it. So there's a lot of quarters that were spent on that. And Street Fighter was a quarter muncher, man. This guy was like the Cookie Monster, like nah, quarter. It was a great arcade game, and we enjoyed the hell out of it. I remember us walking miles just when we heard it's like, oh, there's a new Street Fighter game, it's Champion Edition, or a new Hyper Fighting, and we would walk miles. I mean, it was either walk or take a bus, and you spend your 50 cents dollar to get there, and then you'd have no money to play the game. So it's like, well, we gotta walk, man. So yeah, it was fun times just chasing those different arcade games, and Street Fighter is definitely the one that made us do it the most. Like, we would walk all over the place just trying to find that next arcade, or trying to find those next group of arcade players that were good enough to challenge us, because we would play the crap out of this game. I remember me and my brother, we used to have sessions when the first person to get to 100 matches won. That's right, 100 matches won. Like, I mean, it wasn't like a straight slide. You get just talking about it, like, we need to get to 100 wins. Well, talk about getting to 100 wins with the other guys trying to win too. So most of the time it would go to like 60 and 100 or whatever it was. But that was a long time, man. That was a lot of time wasted, and it was enjoyable. I could definitely tell you guys, it was definitely one of the best times that we had growing up, just playing this game and trying to learn every trick to it pre-internet. All right, so this thing, one thing that I could definitely say is this thing went viral before there was internet. So it was word of mouth. For things to go as widespread as Street Fighter went, and how fast it grew, how crazy people were for this game. I remember on the arcade machine, there was always rows of quarters. Like, you would put it on the plexiglass on the screen, the quarter, and everybody's like, oh, that's my quarter right there. I'm third, I'm fourth, I'm fifth. There were rows. I mean, there was sometimes like $5 just in rows of different people who were looking to play that game. It was a massive hit. Next on the list is Phantasy Star. Phantasy Star was released in 1987, just 2 days after a little known game called Final Fantasy. One of the earliest Japanese RPGs for consoles, it was made as an answer to Dragon Quest. It was also one of the earliest known cases of female protagonist in video games. It came with a battery backup feature, so actual save slots, no more passwords. Yay! Praised for its great visuals and deep gameplay. It was a big game at the time, using 4 megabits. The whole library in Sega, there was only about 4 games that actually used that much memory. This was a game that I played on the Sega Master System. The reason why it's so near and dear to me is because this introduced me to RPGs. As an RPG fan, I definitely take a lot of love for this game. It introduced me to a lot of different tropes that it had. For example, when you were in the dungeons, there was, when you got to the frame of where the stairs were, I didn't even realize that you could see that the stairs either went up or went down. So we would just go into those mazes and completely get lost. We didn't know what the hell was going on until we figured that, oh, this one goes down, this one goes up. And then we started figuring out how to draw our maps and get out of those damn dungeons that took us forever. I mean, it took us months to even understand how to play this game. Another thing that I remember, this was more on the creators than it was on me, but I just didn't realize it. So sometimes the random encounters that you had a list instead of just one enemy. You had a list of like 4 or 5, and I didn't know. I thought it was just, it's a stronger beast. But I mean, nowadays you realize it's like, oh, like you met up with 5 or 6 different enemies and you're attacking them. Now the hard part about it is that when you attacked, it just attacked randomly. You couldn't choose which enemy to attack, so it kind of sucked that way because you couldn't concentrate on taking one down and then taking out the other one, then taking out the other one. Now this is just like random. So if you got lucky, you'd be able to take them out. If not, like, well, if you met up with 5 and you were by yourself on that party, then you were toast, man. You were dead. But that's one of the things that it introduced me to Phantasy Star. Think about it. This is a game that was 8-bit era. This introduced 3D graphics to me, and like you were dungeon crawling on that, and you were first person through those dungeons. So this was definitely something that was completely new and something that you definitely want to say high praises to Sega about, because these guys were always innovators, man. I mean, everybody thinks about Nintendo innovating with the Wii, with the Switch, with the Game Boy, but Sega definitely did things that, like, to this day, like, wow. The only thing that you could probably say is Nintendo was right there with things that they would innovate, so that generation was ready to embrace them, and Sega was just, I would probably say, like 10-15 years ahead of what they wanted to innovate on, which kind of sucked for them as a company. But if you think about it, like looking back, and like, damn, Sega was really, like, they had some people that were way ahead of their time and forward thinking. For example, I mean, Sega had a streaming channel. I remember playing the Sega Genesis, going over to my uncle's house. They would pay a subscription back in the dial-up. I mean, it was during the dial-up days. It was a modem, and you would be able to play the games through that route. It was streaming. The Sega Genesis had this. Then I remember on the Sega Master System, they had 3D glasses. So now you're talking about VR. This was what, 30 years ago, and we had 3D glasses. I mean, it was gimmicky at best, but it worked.
Now, Sega challenges you to experience Sega Scope 3D. 3D so real, it puts the action right in your face. Not even 3D effects like these can match what you'll see through these amazing Sega Scope 3D glasses. Games and accessories sold separately. And nothing but the experience itself can give you the challenge and excitement of Sega games like Zaxxon 3D, coming soon. And Missile Defense 3D, Sega Scope 3D, only on the Sega system. Sega, the challenge will always be there.
I could definitely tell you that it worked. My friend had that, and we definitely got to see a few games in 3D for the Sega Master System. This is, I mean, think about it. This is 30 years ago, like I said, and then when they released their Dreamcast, I mean, that thing was connected to the internet, and they knew that that was the future. But they were again like 10 years ahead of when you were actually be able to play on the internet. So it sucks for them, but a great company nonetheless. Next on the list is Call of Duty Black Ops. This was Call of Duty Black Ops basically one. I'm not talking about a series as a whole. I'm just talking about Call of Duty Black Ops. Now, this game, whenever I think about it, whenever I talk about it, I definitely have to say is like, I don't think there's any game that's cheaper, for the lack of a better word, or more worth it for those $60 that you spent when it first came out. I mean, this game had a campaign that was awesome. Like that twist at the end was great, and the gameplay itself, it introduced you to so many different gameplay scenarios on it. It was awesome. I loved it. And then when you were done with that, you would go and play zombies. Like that's for me. Like we played zombies because we had my brothers and my friends, and we would just get together and play that, and it was awesome, dumb fun. For back then, we craved that arcade style where we could just get together and play. And honestly, arcade games are known and notorious for being difficult, and the fact that most games had an autosave or like save states and you could just continue on, that kind of killed the difficulty level for us older gamers who are used to just basically cringing at playing the game because it's so hard. Playing zombies definitely took that away because there was no pausing on this. It was just, you have to be on, and you make a dumb mistake, you're gonna pay for it, especially down like after level 30. That's what I always say, like, hey, level 30, that's where the men play. So yeah, I played it a long time, and it was great fun playing zombies. And again, that came packaged on one game, so I'm not talking about two different games here. I'm talking about the same one, and it gave us so many hours of enjoyment. And I haven't even gone into multiplayer, when team deathmatch goes, and even even the multiplayer has so many different aspects of it. I mainly just play multiplayer. I like it because it's dumb fun. You run around and you kill people and you die and you spawn back. You're playing hard mode, that just becomes a little bit more difficult to do. But multiplayer was another aspect of that game that just, oh my god, like you played the campaign and you're thinking to yourself like, oh man, this game is badass, it's great. Then you play zombies and you're like, damn man, I can't believe they added so much to this game, and it's awesome, like I love playing this thing. And then you like, out of chance, you just discover like, oh, multiplayer, like holy crap man, like there's 3 different solid Super 8 games on this one packaged game, and that's what Black Ops is. Honestly, I could definitely say that this, for me, it is the cheapest game that you will ever play, that I ever played, because of how much it had. I mean, those $60, like,
shut up and take my money.
That's definitely one of those games that was definitely worth the price of admission. Now, I'm not gonna talk about Black Ops 4 or something where the microtransactions and those stupid updates kept killing my weapons every time. So, but Black Ops 1, definitely huge thumbs up. I loved it, and I am a big fan. Next on the list is Final Fantasy VII. Now, honestly speaking, in my opinion, Final Fantasy VI is probably a little bit better, has a better story, has a better gameplay to it, definitely. It was for the Super Nintendo, probably not better graphics, but overall, as far as enjoying it, I did enjoy Final Fantasy VI a little bit more than I did Final Fantasy VII. But 7 did something that was very important to me, and that's that it revived RPGs as a whole. Before then, RPGs were dying out. There weren't that many out there. I remember I went through like a dry spell with the PlayStation where there was only two games before those that I would consider good RPGs, which was Wild Arms and Suikoden. Wild Arms, great RPG. Suikoden, oh my god, this is a classic of classics. And like you would get 100 different characters, and every character, when you were building this castle from scratch, would get their own room. So I mean, this was a great game, but that was it. And then Final Fantasy came in, and with a big budget of around $80 million. Back in those days, it was unheard of to spend that much money on a single game, and it showed when it came out. I mean, just the first CD of Midgar was a minimal of what this game had. I mean, it was open world, it was awesome, the graphics were great. That little fight music, that's actually my ringtone to this day. I mean, my kids hear any song about Final Fantasy fighting, and they're just telling me, hey dad, your phone's ringing. So I mean, I've had that for years, and that's a testament to how much you enjoy that game. So for that, I definitely gotta say thank you to Final Fantasy VII. Next on the list is Ys Book 1 and 2. Now this game, Ys, I originally played it on the Sega Master System. But Ys 1 and 2 was released prepackaged alongside the Turbo Duo. So I'm probably gonna speak a little bit more about that one. I'll tell you guys in a little bit why. But thinking about that game, if I were to pitch it to you, like you'd be thinking like, why the hell would I want to play that crappy little game? So basically, you're just this sprite that with the sword like coming out of the little sprite, and you wouldn't swing it. You just, I mean, you didn't need any buttons to play this game. You just like up, down, left, right. That's it, and you would position your character or your hero with the little sword sticking out, and that's how you would hit the enemies. That's it. I mean, that's how simplistic the game was. However, it's packaged alongside great RPG elements, and it had a lot of grinding in it. So it took a little bit longer than just like go back and forth like a Zelda type of game. Like you had to grind to be able to kill the stronger enemies. However, what made this game shine as much as it has to this day, it is packaged with one of the greatest scores of any video game that you will play. It is so awesome. I mean, just listening to it to this day, I enjoy it so much, and that's definitely Ys in a nutshell. That soundtrack was never, this game was never boring because you would just hear so the greatest music that I had ever heard at that time, and CD quality with the Turbo Duo just definitely elevated to the point, oh my god, this thing sounds badass. I love playing this game, and to this day I love listening to it, and I replayed it again all the time, and I still enjoy playing this game so much. A little tidbit on that is I enjoyed it so much that I actually named one of my kids after the hero of that video game. So yeah, and one of his best friends is actually called Gohan. So yeah, we're that generation, the one that named our kids after anime and video games. Next on the list is
Resident Evil.
Resident Evil, or Biohazard as it's known in Japan, was released in 1996 by Capcom, who at one point just said, "Let there be survival horror." And thunderclap. It received praise for its graphics, gameplay, sound, and atmosphere. It did receive a little bit of flack from its voice acting, especially the English version. But I don't know what they're talking about, man. I personally like Jill sandwiches. Though it's not the first, it is credited with defining survival horror. This game, when it first came out on the PlayStation, it even reinvented the horror genre again and again. I mean, it reinvented itself. On Resident Evil 2, it improved that formula. It basically just took everything that Resident Evil 1 had and it added more to Resident Evil 2, and it was awesome, man. Like, by the way, Resident Evil 2 just got a remake. Go check that out if you haven't. It was awesome as well. But yeah, Resident Evil 2 is known as the best Resident Evil because of how everything just clicked together. Survival horror with action, with graphics. It was great. Then Resident Evil 3 just made it a little bit more actiony. It kind of veered away from the survival horror aspect of it. Like, you would just get so much ammo that you never felt like you were in danger. Resident Evil 4 again reinvented itself, reinvigorated Resident Evil. Again, it's one of the best Resident Evil games that you could play. So if you haven't played that one, you definitely want to check Resident Evil 4 out. We'll skip the other two and we'll go to Resident Evil 7, which again reinvented itself, and it was a great game. I enjoyed playing the hell out of this game, and I am very excited when Resident Evil Village comes out. So yeah, Resident Evil, great experience playing it. I remember when we first started playing it, like, we were walking around and like zombies were dead, right? Like, they were on the floor, and like, oh, you're walking by and they launch at you, they start grabbing your leg, and like, you just start kicking them, and you just start kicking. It's like, what the hell, man? Like, this thing, I thought this thing was dead, what the hell? So that was new, and like, I mean, this whole thing was just new to us, this whole experience. Like, we were just playing it so tense. Then came the dogs when they jumped out of the window and they started chasing you. It's like, oh crap, run! So those experiences that you only get once, man, and we lived it. We enjoyed the crap out of it. We were just like, oh, we're so engrossed on this game. It's like, oh my god, like, double tap, double tap. What that basically means is like, keep shooting them just to make sure that they're dead. So yeah, Resident Evil was a great experience to play. Next on the list is Metal Gear Solid 3. Snake Eater is an action-adventure stealth game. It was released in 2005 by Konami, who we should all be very angry at because they're either shelving or mutilating these great series that they have. So let's all write them angry letters. It's considered one of the greatest video games of all time. The voice acting on this game is awesome. The Snake Eater song is actually really cool. It's on my playlist as well. It sounds a lot like a 007 style song. The characters are colorful. Now, Metal Gear Solid as a series as a whole is known for just the sheer story, the gameplay, all of those little tidbits that director Hideo Kojima adds to the games. Personally speaking, I considered Metal Gear Solid 3 one of my favorite games, like on the top 2 or 3 of all time that I've ever played, because to me it was the pinnacle of storytelling, gameplay, graphics, everything just clicked. And I think director Hideo Kojima has definitely has that formula down. I mean, it's evident on the half-completed Metal Gear Solid 5. The gameplay on that thing is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, you could pick it up and play hours on it and you don't even advance on the story. You just enjoy playing the crap out of this game. And I did play it so much, and I could definitely tell you it was so tight, that gameplay, that to this day I just enjoy picking it up and playing it. How much fun I have, how many different ways you can approach any one problem on that game. And even then, like, thinking about it, Death Stranding, another game by Hideo Kojima. I mean, this game has no business being as good as it actually is. I mean, you're just basically delivering packages. You're a mailman. You're a glorified mailman. That's all you are. And that's it. I mean, like, there's other pitches, there's other things, there's a story to it, I imagine. I mean, Hideo Kojima is known for making them all super convoluted stories. But the gameplay was solid on it. I had fun playing this game. I had so much fun playing it. I played through it so much. And like I said, I mean, it wasn't like, if I explain it to you, you're probably gonna say I don't want to play this game. But let me tell you, I had a ton of fun playing this game, and I will replay it again. One of the things that I could remember from the story that made it so badass. I mean, you're Big Boss. That's basically how that game is pitched. Before then, the other two Metal Gear Solids, you were playing as Boss, which is a clone of this guy that you're playing in Part 3. So you get to see firsthand why this guy is Big Boss, why he's so badass, why he's known as like the pinnacle of soldiers. And when you like the first scenario where you meet up Revolver Ocelot, that whole cinematic cutscene like just welcomes to like how badass he is, how he disarms it, like how he, I mean, check it out and you'll definitely understand like how hyped you are to play as this guy. And spoiler alert, at the end where you kill your mentor, it has a great little scene at the style of Hero, the Chinese movie, where after you kill that hero, all the plants around you turn from one color to another one. Absolutely stunning, beautiful. Story-wise, I could definitely tell you felt when you killed your mentor. You felt for it. That's definitely a testament to the writing. Check out Metal Gear Solid 3, which is, in my humble opinion, one of the greatest games ever made. Before we get to number 10 on our list, I want to give a shout out to a couple of games that I really enjoyed as well. First on the list is Uncharted. Now the whole series as a whole, honestly, I really enjoyed playing it, because whenever you would play any one of these games that were released, you actually felt like you were playing an action movie. You felt like an action star, just how much adrenaline was pumping when you were playing this game. It's like, dude, there's some scenarios on this game that are just absolutely amazing, and you're playing it. It's all interactive. So I definitely got to say that they refined the formula that was established by other honorable mention. Tomb Raider was a phenomenon. So this is just like in the sense of when I was speaking earlier about Street Fighter 2. This game was revolutionary when it first released. It showed everybody what 3D graphics could do, and it did it so well. It was such a solid gameplay. It was good story. The graphics were great for back in the days, and like everybody had to play Tomb Raider. If you were growing up on that generation and you never played Tomb Raider, I don't know how the hell you hide from that, man. This thing was massive. It was a viral hit before the age of internet as well. Yeah, a great game that established that type of a formula for exploration. And the last honorable mention would have to be Tekken 3. It was great. I enjoyed playing the hell out of this game. You got to play as Bruce Lee, so that was awesome. The gameplay mechanics, in my opinion, were a little bit better than Street Fighter, and to this day I enjoy playing Tekken more than I enjoy playing Street Fighter. So that's a testament to the fact that as fondly as I remember Street Fighter, Tekken just overtook it on every front with its 3D graphics on it. So great game on that. We get to the last on the list now, Tetris. Tetris was developed in 1984. It had a long battle for its rights during the 1980s between its creator, Alexei Pajitnov. Sorry for murdering your name, man. With the rights actually going back to Alexei back in the 1996. It's a simple tile matching game. It has a great song that was beautifully remastered for Smash Bros, by the way. I have it on my playlist. It's one of the best selling video games of all time. Just for the Game Boy alone, it sold 35 million copies. At that time, that's a crazy amount. It has a Guinness World Record as the most ported game ever, so you could find it anywhere you want to look for it. Yeah, this game, there's no way you haven't heard about this game. There's no way you haven't played this game. This game has been on every system since its inception in the Game Boy. System seller is all I could say. Like, if you could say that The only game that you're gonna be able to get to play on the Game Boy was Tetris. You were fine with it because you could log in hours on this thing and it's still fun, man. I mean, I've played this game through every iteration of system, and to this day, I mean, my kids played on the PlayStation 5, and they still enjoy the hell out of it. They log in hours just as much as I logged in. Over the course of the years, there have been puzzle games who have tried to dethrone it. I mean, you have great games, by the way. I mean, I love playing Puzzle Fighter, Bust a Move, or Puzzle Bubble, however you want to call it. It's the same game. Like, those games are awesome in their own right, and I mean, I spend hours playing them. I love playing Puzzle Fighter. I love playing Puzzle Bubble, but nobody dethrones the king. Tetris is definitely where it's at. I mean, how simplistic this game was to how big it is, it's amazing. And the great part about it is this game, you could play it anywhere. It's on every system, every mobile device, every handheld. This thing could be put anywhere because it's not graphic intensive, and it's just the gameplay that makes it as fun as it is. And that brings us to the end of our list. If you guys have any suggestions, like I said, please put them in the comments. Don't forget, again, click that subscribe button, hit me with a thumbs up, so we could continue bringing this content to you guys. And as always, keep it retro.